mock-up pneumatic style clutch installation video. And this is going to be the second video in this series with the air clutches. Just a reminder, this is only going to work with our secondary too, with the billet secondary. And you're also going to need the brace arm and the bearing for the secondary with the insert. And we'll kind of go through what you get. So this is how the clutch comes out of the box. And so you'll have the actuator already assembled on there, and the bolt will already be inside. But everything is just going to be hand tight here. Nothing's going to be finally tightened because you're going to have to take all of this back off to, actually install the clutch on the machine. So we'll go through real quick and go through the breakdown of breaking all of this down. And we'll get everything set up. We'll go through our tools that we're going to need for putting the clutch together and taking it apart, servicing it. And also we'll talk a little bit about the setup and the tuning of it also. And we'll get started. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get this actuator off of the top here. And we'll talk about the belt clearance and the shimming and the setup right here on the bench. And then once we got that, we'll go ahead and lap it onto the crankshaft, get the bolt torque down, and we'll start getting everything lined up and getting all the plumbing and everything gone through. So to start, we're going to take we need to take our actuator off up here. So that's going to be with the 5/32 bolts here, and then the 1/8 inch bolts down here. So we want to start by taking these top ones off. And you will only take the silver ones out, you leave the black ones in. And go ahead and remove the four smaller bolts. And with the actuator loose, you can just rotate it around and get to all four of them. Now with all of the pieces loose here, we can take our 7/16 and our 1/2 inch wrench, and we go right inside of the actuator here. Lay this inside here. See what we're doing. So if you look inside of there, there's a flat on the actuator rod, and then if you pull the actuator plunger out, there's a flat on the actual piston itself. So the 7/16 goes on the shaft, the 1/2 inch goes on the actuator, and we make that loose. And then once that's loosened, then you just take and spin the actuator right off. Now we'll be able to expose our first nut here. So this is going to be a 7/8 nut here that bolts this bearing block down. And then the bearing block is going to come right off after that. And the bearing block faces with the bolt holes up. And then next is going to be the cover stop piece here that the cover stop sits on. That's going to come out at the end. Then the plunger assembly is going to come out. And then we got the 30th shim there for the, so it's not metal on the top. So the first thing we're going to do is, if you look down in the hole, the bolt is already down in there. So how on these clutches, how we do is you're going to have to use a 1/2 inch 3/8 drive socket that fits down in the hole. And then that's how you're going to be able to tighten that up. With that setup, something like that. And we're going to torque these bolts down to 85 foot-pounds on the primary for the main retaining bolt. And then, so this clutch here is got the updated style cover stop piece here. So we'll talk about setting belt deflection right now while we have all this on the bench. So the way that this kind of works is when you turn this cover stop in or out, it's going to move the sheath in accordance to the belt. Because this piece is always going to lock up in the same exact spot, because the balls inside are what locks the clutch up. So it's always going to stay in the same spot, and then whether you turn this in or out, that's going to move this sheath up or down to get it closer or further away from the belt. So now the key to this is, though, is right now, see, we don't have our top plate on here. So this isn't actually our true belt clearance. So to see and actually check our belt clearance, what we need to do is simply install our first bearing block piece here and our shim. So we'll put that down and we'll go ahead and just reinstall this down with no plunger assembly or anything, just for a setup type deal. And we'll bring that down. And that tightened down. Now that's going to be our actual belt clearance now. So when this comes in with our belt here, we can check our belt to sheath clearance. And now you got to remember that there is a slight bit of free play on this mechanism, about 10 thousandths. So whatever you want your actual belt deflection or belt clearance to be, you need to add about 10 thousandths to it. So right there we got about 30 thou. So that should be nice and good for the starting point. That's about where you want to start. You don't want to get much more than about 60 to 70 thou belt clearance on the side, because what's going to happen is then it's going to smack in and reverberate the clutch. So now that we got the belt clearance set up, and now if we wanted to adjust that, what we would do, so like right now with the actuator off, we can just remove these 3 bolts, and then we use our spanner tool to include it in the tool with our tightness. And we would just take the spanner tool and adjust it either way you wanted to go with it. And then that's to change the belt deflection, and then, or the belt side clearance, and then if everything was assembled, and all you wanted to do was make a clearance adjustment, then we have this notch out on the bearing block for you to go in and get your Allen wrench right in there to make the adjustment. And the screws are showed up to where you can adjust it with the actuator, the arm, everything already assembled on. So this clutch here is came pre-lock, and we decided on our order that we chose for it to come pre-lock. So we don't need to lock the spider down or set the spider shimming. However, on this clutch there is a spider shim, and that will affect the belt grip upon engagement, because it's going to place, it's going to set the position of the spider to the weights. So if we have more spider shim, we're going to get more belt grip on the starting line. If we have less spider shim, we'll get less belt grip on the starting line, but a higher engagement. But the engagement with this clutch really doesn't matter because it's a lockup style. So now that we have all that kind of out of the way, we can go ahead and start assembling everything onto our car and getting the clutch onto the crankshaft and getting everything set up to go. Okay, so first thing we're going to do now that we have our clutch kind of set up on the bench is we're going to go through and get the crankshaft lapped onto the taper of the clutch. So what we're going to use is some valve grinding compound or lapping compound. And what you're going to do is you're going to make sure that both of the surfaces are clean and dry. And we'll just put a few little dabs on the crankshaft there, and then we'll simply just install our clutch and lap it back and forth. So we just slide it on, back and forth. And we just want to do it until it sounds nice and smooth. And you can see we got a nice gray lap tire. Alright, that looks good. So now, if you notice, we got a full clean, dry, gray area where we've got our crankshaft taper lapped all the way in. And if we look at our crankshaft itself, we got a nice, smooth, wide band. So we know that we're getting lapped all the way down. And that's the big part of keeping the crankshaft from spinning on the taper. And now that we have all of that, we can just clean both surfaces with a little bit of brake clean. see our both tapers. They're nice and dull gray. And lap to one another. So now we can go ahead and install the clutches. So I like to install the secondary first, it's just a little easier. So the tip here on the X3s and any side-by-side really is you always put the car in gear and then ensure that it slides all the way down onto the shaft. Next we'll take our belt, install the belt in the proper orientation. Slip that around. If we take our primary clutch. First, just start the clutch bolt by hand. Clutch bolt down by hand. We'll get our torque wrench out and torque it to 85 foot-pounds. And we'll use our pull button here. You can always add a few extra foot-pounds to get through the flex, but 85 should be good on the primary. And then what we're going to do now, at this point, is we will start the car and we'll just let it idle, and then we'll re-torque the primary bolt, because right now with the air setup like this, it's, you know, we got to take a lot of parts off to torque it. So we'll go ahead and put our secondary bolt in. And we'll start the car and let it idle for a minute, and then re-torque the bolt. And then once we're happy that the bolt hasn't taken any more torque, we will proceed with the actuator assembly. So we'll just slide our bearing block piece in. So the way that it goes is we're basically going to use our insert piece provided, and then you're going to use the longer bolt, the thicker washer, and then the lock washer. And then the bearing housing is going to go with the snack ring facing out. Slide it in. And we can go ahead and take that out. 17. So we are going to start the car now and let it idle for a minute, and we're going to do that in neutral. that's good. We're happy with the crank shaft seated on the clutch. We can go ahead and start assembling the actuator. So now, on these with the stock arms, there is going to be a little bit of clearance here with this tab. So when we go through, we get everything assembled, we'll go through and show you where it's at. But basically this sway bar tab is going to be just a little bit in the way. So when we come in, it's going to be right in this area here is where it's going to possibly hit. So a lot of the times what we can do is just hit this with a hammer, move all this stuff over, but we want to verify clearance on that. So the first thing that we do when we're putting the actuator back together is we'll verify that our balls are all still in the clutch. And we'll go through and then you basically just reassemble it step by step in the same order that you disassembled it in. First thing, it's going to be that our balls are all in position still. First one. And on the holes, there's going to be one hole that's larger and one hole that's smaller. And the balls go in smaller, the holes that the ball can't escape out from the top. Alright, so we still have all our balls in there. And when we go ahead and put the balls in, we use a little bit of grease on our finger. And then that's what holds the balls in position. But as the clutch spins around, the balls are going to get flung out. So it's not like they're going to fall down in. So then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to check the tightness on our actuator plunger here. So if you see here, we take our wrench and we'll just go through, verify that's good and tight. There should be no free play on that and it should spin freely. So now that we have that tightened down, go ahead and install it in the clutch first. And then the next piece that we install is going to be our bearing block here. And we gotta make sure that we don't forget our plastic shit. And now, on the actuator parts here, we go ahead and torque these down also. So the bigger one is gonna get torqued to 75 foot-pounds, and the smaller nut is gonna get torqued to 65 foot-pounds. 75 right there. Set up our clutch holder. That torqued. And that washer is in position. We can go ahead and install our bearing block here. And that's going to go with the tactile holes facing us. Next is going to be the bearing nut. So that's going to go on. And then we're going to use our 7/8 speed coil to go ahead and torque that down to 65 foot-pounds. With both of those torqued down, we can go ahead and remove our clutch holder. And now we can go ahead and install our actuator housing and actuator. And we're going to just go ahead and pull the plunger out, give ourselves a little more room. finger tight. We'll go ahead and lift all of the bolts still out and use our 1/2 inch and our 7/16 wrenches. Go ahead and snug down the rest of the way on the shaft. It's tightened. Now we'll go ahead and install the bolts that hold the actuator housing to the bearing block. First, the smaller bolts. And you want to assemble it with the brace facing backwards and the notch cut out facing up. Okay, and now with the 4 small bolts tightened, we will go ahead and install the 4 larger bolts. And we're going to orient it like this with the fittings facing forward and the brace arm facing backwards. Tightened. We have basically everything assembled on the actuator end of the clutch. Now we need to install the brace arm that goes in between the 2 clutches. So the first thing we want to do before we get the brace all on is check our belt deflection here. And as you can see, we got it to the top of the clutch here. And we still have some decent deflection here. Alright, so now we'll set the proper belt deflection. See, we've got it pretty tight here. We want to have the belt deflection basically set as tight as we can get it and still be able to shift the gears smoothly, just like on a normal setup. So, and if we need to adjust that, we're going to do that right here with this outer adjuster ring. Ours is set pretty good right now, so that's where we're going to keep it right there. But if you did need to make an adjustment, it'd just be a 3/16 Allen wrench, and then we'd turn this adjuster knob right here. So we'll go ahead and install our brace arm here. Go ahead and get the 2 longer bolts installed first. Get those tightened up, and then we'll snug up these adjusters there. We'll go ahead and tighten down those. So now, basically, we have most of our hard parts assembled onto our clutches. So we've got our actuator set up here. We've got all of our fittings facing forward. We've got our brace arm on, checked our torque on everything. All of everything is good. See, we've got free play on our cam arms. Our belt deflection is set. Our back bolt is tight. So we're ready to go through and plumb the air system. Talk a little bit about the actuator solenoid and go to and show you how it works. Alright, so now that we have our actuator all assembled, we're going to go ahead and plumb it all in. So if you notice, we got two different air lines coming here. So the way that it's going to go is the one that's closest to the clutch here is going to hook up to the solenoid fitting that's straight across the air source. So if we come up here to our setup, so basically what we have here is our solenoid, and then we have our air source. So the fitting that's closest to the clutch is going to go to this bottom fitting, so basically straight across. So when this is all set up and everything is correct, if we go back down and look at the clutch, the actuator piece in here will be pulled out. So when the actuator is pulled out, the clutch is released and it's not locked up. When the actuator is pushed in, that's the locked up position. And when we activate the clutch and everything, we want to make sure that this piece inside of here is moving in and moving out. That's what we're verifying is working here with this whole thing. So we have that bottom hose closest to the clutch going to the straight across fitting. The top fitting is going to be the switched fitting, and that's going to go, so when this switches, it's going to put the air on this hose and it's going to plunge the plunger in. And then we're going to exhaust each time we hit it. So we can just go ahead and check it. And then here all we have is a regulated air source. So we got, just under 500 in the bottle. We got it regulated down right now to about 70. You can run this system up to 150, 175 pounds. If needed, the less, usually though right around 100, 70 to 100 is pretty much all you normally need to make it function. The more pressure just uses more air. So we can go ahead and show you. So, normally you'd have this on a momentary switch, but we just have it rigged up on a regular switch. So we switch it. So now the clutch will be locked. Okay. So that's basically the setup and the function of it all with the actuator there. So now, and that's going to be basically, so now how this is going to work with your car or your system is that the clutch is just going to stay locked up as long as the two-step button is engaged. So when you have your system on your car, whatever you desire your two-step RPM to be, that's going to be your engagement speed because the clutch is just going to stay locked up regardless of what it is, as long as it's above the normal engagement speed of the clutch without the locked up mechanism. So we can go ahead, we can turn it up now.